Okay, so I feel like whenever I record my solo episodes, it's because I have, an extra hour in the day, and it's almost like I'm so used to being so busy that I just like don't know what to do with myself when I have an extra hour. And so it's a really fun opportunity to do a solo episode, which I'm excited to do now. The only thing is I have had a cold now for like almost a month since I got back from the UK. And so my voice sounds so wild. And so I've been coming on doing a lot of lives, doing a lot of recording, and I don't want to necessarily be like capturing my voice in such a way. But I, unfortunately, my job, requires me to speak. So now we will always have this lovely memory of my voice. Okay. I am sitting here trying to find the right words for this episode because really and truly, when I came across this email, I had to really take a second and just be in awe of the way that the universe works. And I knew that I had to come on and do a podcast about it because I know so many of you listening to this are really in the thick of it right here and now. And, you sometimes when you are in the thick of it, it feels like all you have to cling on to are other people's testimonies of healing and encouragement. And so I really hope that if that's you right now, this can be that for you. So, this entire episode is going to be evidence for you that the healing journey is a gift. And if you allow it to, that the healing journey will truly be the best thing that's ever happened to you. So, here we go. So, I was going through my college email. I went to UT Austin, University of Texas at Austin. And I was going through my email because we are currently, we just applied for my UK visa. But one of the requirements on the visa is that you put all the places you've traveled to in the past 10 years, which is like, so we had to go through literally my email from college and just look at everywhere that I traveled to. So in looking through that email, of course, I came across all these prehistoric conversations that I was having with people when I was in university. And, there's emails with professors and emails for me applying to jobs. And it's really interesting to get an insight into who I was. And so for context, I'm 30 right now. And so, this was a while ago. This was 10 years ago. And so it's interesting to kind of see the evolution of who I've become and really the path that I thought I was on. And I came across an email that really blew me away and brought me back to a time in my life where I wanted to follow my heart. And it really made me realize why I got sick, why my healing journey was the best thing that ever happened to me, and put everything into perspective. So I'm going to share it with you. And I'm really excited to hear from you specifically if you've come out on the other side, what your example of this is. But also, I hope that you can cling on to this and, keep the faith as you move through your own journey right now. So to give a little context, growing up, I really felt like I was always someone who kind of looked like they were meant to fit in, but just didn't fit in. I was always kind of on the periphery of groups, and I didn't really fit into like the normal clubs and a lot of the normal interests and stuff like that. I always kind of like marched to the beat of my own drum, if you will. And when I got to college, this was hard for me because I was really interested, deeply, deeply interested in philosophy, psychology, physics, neurobiology, I loved anything that was empirical. I'm a very data-driven person. I spent a lot of my free time reading and studying different theories of the mind. I was like one of those people who would literally spend my free time like buying or checking out library books and reading about one topic for like 2 weeks and then like journaling about it and writing about it, but none of it actually had to do with school. It was just like an interest that I had. And so it was always kind of weird to my friends. They'd be like, why are you sitting outside on a Friday night, like trying to like understand this like concept from your quantum physics class, which by the way was the class that I got 105 in. So I got better than in the best because really truly like when I was interested in something, I really threw myself into it. And I went through this very exploratory phase where, just to give a little background, I was raised very, very religious, like borderline cult religious. And in fact, I would call it a cult, but I don't think that they identify as such, but it very much was. And so, contextually, because this will kind of help it make sense, I never learned science until college. And so, when I went to college, it was the first time that my mind was open to the concept of evolution, believe it or not. And I think this is where my fascination came from because I wasn't really allowed before to like learn about outer space um, and learn about I say outer space like I'm like a child. But truly because I took astronomy freshman year and I was like, whoa. And then that's where I learned about physics. And then that's where I learned about quantum physics. And then I was just entranced. Um, but then, of course, learning about evolution, studying the brain and how we evolved and all of that was very interesting to me. And I, there was a learning curve because going to a hyper religious school and being raised in a cult like environment, well, that would preclude me from learning about these things. So I think that's my fascination with it. I really just wanted to get my hands on the data, on the truth of what really is out there. And I think that's why I'm such a data driven person because I'm like, no, I like to see things as they are objectively, right? Versus the theories that I was raised with. And so I think this is why I became absolutely obsessed with, you know, expanding my mind. And I think what's interesting, and during this time in particular as well, like um, I was, I don't think that people realize how much work it takes to go from being in one belief system your whole life and then having to change that belief system in its entirety and reframe everything you once knew to be true. Meaning, I was raised to think a very specific way in that, like creationism versus evolution, that heterosexuality was the only way, that women should be ashamed of their bodies, never to wear swimsuits or, anything above the knee, that absolutely heaven and hell was real. And even if you were a Christian, you could still go to hell unless you made sure you didn't have impure thoughts, all the above. So I was really raised in a fear-based and really controlling environment. And then dismantling these thoughts took a lot of work. So I think this is why I am such an open-minded person now and someone who is really always challenging my own beliefs. And I think that's why I'm really good at what I do and why I was able to heal so successfully, because I understand what it takes to challenge your reality. And I understand the work that goes into that and how that process actually looks in real time. And I understand that, there often is another reality, In fact, there always is another reality outside of your own if you're willing to open your eyes and see it. And so this was a really important exercise for me, but almost I digress, but I think that was just, something that sort of a download, if you will, that came to me just now as I was talking through this. But so this was me in college, right? So maybe not the me that you expected, knowing me now. Maybe it is. I don't know. And so I was really into all of this. And then at the same time, I was dating someone who was sort of the opposite. He was smart, but he was a finance guy. And the crew that we hung out with was very much like flashy, shiny objects, go out to bars, get drunk, whatever. Not so much the sit at home and read books about neurobiology and quantum physics. So I kind of, at this point, broke away from the desires of my soul and my heart and went into this world of kind of just like, surface level is like how I like to call it. So I decided I wanted to become a lawyer. And so I started taking LSAT classes. I worked at a law firm as a paralegal. Well, not a paralegal, sort of like shadowing the paralegal during the summer in Dallas. And I, toured the law school I wanted to go to and got everything ready for early admission. And oh my gosh, the amount of LSAT books that I have and the amount of LSAT practice tests. I was at LSAT. For those of you who don't know, that's the exam you take to get into law school. I was taking my LSAT course 3 times a week on top of a full course load. And I was just like, I had just kind of like turned off this side of me, this burning curiosity in my soul to discover and learn and read and think and explore just for fun. And I went into the complete opposite. I mean, what is more opposite than that? Honestly, a lawyer, someone who is completely by the book, someone who is about as by the law and by the what was before as you could possibly be. And inherently, I was the opposite, but I sort of just turned away from that. Well, not sort of, I totally turned away from that. And so all of a sudden, I get sick. And so I'm going from doctor to doctor. And they say to me, why don't you up your Adderall? You're just tired because you're an overachiever. I had a competition with my friends, and it was whoever could get the best GPA, we would buy that person a really nice bottle of vodka. So every semester we were competing on who had the best GPA. And, we went to a difficult school. All of us went to good schools, and we were taking full course loads. We all went on to be successful. And, it was funny because I'm doing that, and I'm also doing all the LSAT prep, and I'm also working as an intern and maintaining a social life and a relationship. And so I was really pushing myself to my absolute limits. And so I upped my Adderall, and about a year goes by and I'm undiagnosed. So at this point, I am, just mentally and physically coping when and where I can and how I can. And so finally, I get so sick. And, I remember this because I was sitting in the classroom. And at this point, I had convinced myself that I was sort of like neurotic and a hypochondriac just because they kept telling me that nothing was wrong with me. Although physically you could see it because I had lost about 30 pounds. I looked very ill. I was always starving. I ate like 3,500 calories a day, more. Like I would wake up and eat like 3 eggs and 2 bagels with cream cheese and like a pack of Twizzlers on the way to class. Like I would just eat so much. I was so hungry, but I was so skinny. I was so skinny that I was wearing children's clothes from Gap Kids because I no longer could fit into adult clothes, which is outrageous because if I'm, thinking about myself now, I'm no taller than I was then, but oh my gosh, like that would probably not even fit on one of my legs. And so I was in class one day, and I had a thyroid storm, where everything just kind of went off, and I had to leave the classroom. I was dripping in sweat to the floor. I told myself that it was all in my head and that I was making it up just because I didn't have a diagnosis. Um, but at this point, I knew something was wrong, and I went home to see one of my childhood doctors. She put her hand on my pulse. My pulse was 181 per minute. And she said, "You, my dear, have Graves' disease." Instantly, she knew. And it's why I'm such a proponent of, really having a doctor that knows you from the inside out. This particular practitioner worked with my entire family. She knew me since the day I was born, and she knew everything about me. So, that's a whole other topic. But this is how I got my diagnosis. From then, of course, it spiraled. If you know my story, I have so many other diagnoses that piled onto that, until I ended up years later in 2018, really 2019, taking a holistic approach and healing my body from the inside out. At the time, though, it was very much an allopathic Western medicine approach, and that was it. So, so this happens. I get sick, and all of a sudden, my world comes crashing down. And this might be how you feel right now, like you're in your journey, you're in the thick of it, and you feel like it's really just pivoted your life into a completely different direction than what you wanted. And this is how I felt. And so I just want you to know that I understand that feeling of doom. I was on track to go to a really good law school. By the way, it was a school that both my parents went to, SMU. My sisters both went to UT, so I went to UT. That's not why, but they did, and I went there as well. It's a really good school, and I'm proud of it. SMU is also a great school. Both my parents went there, and I wanted to go there for law school. I was on my way. I had nearly perfect GPA. I was, my LSAT scores were super high. I was a great candidate. I would constantly put in my data on a website to see how likely I was to get into my top picks, and I was always right on track. But all of a sudden, I was sick, and that meant that I just physically couldn't do what I wanted to do. I couldn't go 150%. My doctor said to me, "Faith, you have to take a semester off of school. If you don't, you will fail. You are too sick." And I said, "It's fine. I can do it anyways." So I tried to go to school. I had a handicap sticker that I put on my car so I was allowed to drive. But he was right. I ended up failing one of my classes, mostly because I literally couldn't make it into class. I was dropping the ball right, left, and center. I remember I used to wake up on the floor. I would pass out. Like, I would get up out of my bed and literally fall to the ground and pass out. And I'd wake up looking at the ceiling and everything is black. And I had literally just passed out on the floor. It was so scary. But yeah, I was pushing myself because I thought I had to be like this perfect person. So I failed one of my classes, and I remember sitting in the headmaster's office, or the dean, crying, saying, "I put in my calculations online, and with this F, I will not get early admission into SMU for law school." And I'm laughing now because I truly remember, to me, this was the end of the world. And I was like, my life is over. And I remember him saying, "Your life isn't over. You have a great track record. You can explain your F. You're going to be just fine." And I was like, "You don't understand. Like, we have to find a way to reverse this. There's got to be something that we can do. Like, I have a medical note." And he's like, "I'm sorry. Like, there's nothing we can do. Like, unfortunately, this F is going to be on your transcript." So for me, it was the end of the world. I went home, and there's this like massive state of depression. And I was like, well, what the hell am I going to do now? I just felt like law school just wasn't going to happen. Not the kind of schools that I wanted to go to. And so I decided to take another route. I was like, this is the end. And so I decided to sort of take the opposite approach. And I finally conceded that I was too sick. And I took a semester off school. And all I did was lay in bed. And it sucked. I was so sick. And no one really understood. Like, I really felt like people were probably looking at me like, this girl literally just sits there. Like, what does she do all day? But I was sick. And I didn't really have a plan anymore. Like, I felt like it had just derailed my life, you know? And I felt like I was missing out on stuff. And I just really felt sick. So I started kind of piling on the medications. I was taking Xanax. I was taking Lexapro. I was literally chewing up and drinking beta blockers because my heart rate was so high. It really sucked. But luckily, one of my roommates, who's still one of my best friends, was a nurse, and she had her little nurse's kit. So whenever I'd be super scared that I was going into storm, she would crush my beta blockers up for me. And I would literally like put them on my gums and drink them and all that, like a proper drug addict. And she would put her what's it called, on my heart to listen to my heart, stethoscope. Is that what it's called? And help me breathe and all of that. It was horrible. It was really, really difficult. And then, of course, came the chronic UTIs, and then the candida, and then the SIBO. Of course, all of that was coupled with the anxiety and depression, and it was horrible. And so I'm really going through it, right? So I end up taking a job that's totally different than what I thought I would ever do, mostly because I just didn't have a career path. And of course, it ended up being that the job that I took, my boss is now my husband, which, by the way, is obviously the best thing that ever happened to me. But I would have never gone for that job if I hadn't been sitting in the elective that I had chosen. It was some sociology elective that I still had like some electives to choose. So I took a sociology class, and I remember I was sitting up at the top. This was when I went back to school because I did a victory lap, because I ended up like really taking a year off total, because the semester where I failed a class, like I only took 3 classes and the other 2 like were just random classes. So I took my 5th year. So I was sitting in class and I was like, what the hell am I going to do with my life? And I found a job listing for a startup. And it was like, if you're entrepreneurial and you're interested in starting a business and you're interested in the next generation and blah, 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 apply here. This is a UK company, and we want to launch in Dallas. And so I was like, oh my gosh, okay, whatever. I'll apply to this job because I'm entrepreneurial. I've always had an entrepreneurial bug. Duh. Now I own my own business. So I apply for this job, and I get a call from some British guy. So here's the first thing that happens. My sickness at the exact time that it derailed me propelled me into this job, which again, had I not at that time, because they had just put the listing up, I was their very first American hire. So had they not put the listing up at the exact time where I went right back to school, I probably wouldn't have applied. Like, so many things had to fall into exact place for me to hit that button, and be open to that as well. And so I apply for this job. My husband interviews me. In reality, I was a shit candidate for that job, but he told me now that he pretty much just hired me because he thought I was hot. So, I mean, I'm smart, but it was like an education-based company, and I don't really like kids. Obviously, I like my kid, but anyone who knew me knew that I'd like never nannied or babysat, yet somehow I still got the job. And he told me, like, the other person who interviewed me was like, yeah, she's like not good. He's like, oh no, she's great. And he was persistent as well, because at the time I had a boyfriend, but I ended up breaking up with him, and Matt stayed single that whole time. And a year later we got together. So that was the first thing that happened. But I still was sick, right? So during this whole time, I was still very, very sick, and the sickness just kept getting worse and worse, and I just kept band-aiding it. And so, like, I would take, like, Gas X for the bloating. I took Adderall in the morning. I would drink a triple shot venti latte. So I would literally need the caffeine from my coffee and the Adderall just to give me enough energy to get out of bed. I didn't eat for the entire day, because if I ate, my stomach would bloat, and I would have horrible stomach issues. I pretty much couldn't tolerate anything. And so I basically wouldn't eat all day until I came back, and I knew it was safe for me to put like expandable pants on, because then I could eat. And if I bloated, it wouldn't be so physically painful because I could lay down. I had cystic acne from all the food intolerances. I took antibiotics every day because I had chronic UTIs, and no matter what I did, I could not prevent them. And so I took antibiotics every day, and I also took a lot of azo for when I did get the UTIs. But like I said, I took them as a preventative measure, and then even then I would still get UTI, so I would take like really heavy duty ones for like 8 days. Yeah, and so things just kept progressing until we moved to Austin. And when we got to Austin, I took a job at a tech company, and it was probably the world's most boring job, but it paid well. It paid me twice as much as what my first job was paying me, and I was really pleased with the salary increase. It was also extremely flexible. I mostly worked from home, and I had very little oversight. And so I had a lot of freedom, which was stark contrast to my previous job. And essentially what I was doing is I was the marketing manager in the government department, meaning that the government was my client, and we produced the driver's license security features and the infrastructure for the security for the database. So boring. Oh my God. I could not have been less interested in what I was doing if I tried. Like, literally, I cannot think of something that I'm less interested in than what my job was. And so I was moving farther away from what set my soul on fire. And at the same time, I was getting sicker and sicker. And so I started to notice that I was feeling so bad that, some days I couldn't even get up in the morning, even with, all the things that, even with all the things that I was doing to self-medicate. So I started to kind of get interested in like maybe being a little healthy, because prior to that, because of Graves' disease, I was always very thin. So I didn't have to worry about what I was eating. I didn't have to work out. I just looked small. And I think it was just like, I was like, maybe I remember actually I sent my friend a message and I said, I think I should start looking at the food that I'm putting in my body. And she said, okay, go to a dietitian. Well, come to realize that the traditional dietitians, I don't believe that their education is conducive to supporting people with chronic illnesses or people using food as medicine. And that's just my experience and the experience of my clients. I don't think that there's anything wrong with dietitians. I think that they can be really helpful for a lot of things, but I don't think that they're useful in the context of helping people use food as medicine to heal chronic illness. And so, um, and so basically it just got so bad. And this is where like the story you probably know, if you're someone who follows me on social media or, has listened to my podcast or anything like that, this is where it all goes, the worst it's possibly been, to where I get so sick that I have to leave my job. But prior to that, I do start trying to get healthy. I think I had lost my train of thought there. So I do start trying to work out, which helps a little bit. But then I come to this like crashing halt. I started being a little healthier. Like literally I would just eat whatever I wanted before that. So I started to kind of like bring back into some of the principles that I grew up with, because I did grow up eating like all organic and stuff like that. But that was really the extent of it. And so it comes to crashing halt in 2018. I get so sick. So this is where I meet a lot of my clients, as in I physically and emotionally meet them in this space where I understand going from specialist to specialist to specialist and being in a position where your illness is so debilitating that you literally lose your job. And this was me, because I physically couldn't get up during the day and go to work. It's also the place where you feel like everyone thinks that it's in your head and that you're making it up. And so your friends kind of start to think you're crazy. And the line gets blurred between like therapists and friends and therapists and family, because you're not prepared for this and you don't understand like what's the best way to vent to your friends. And so, it gets like emotionally difficult for your friends, and then you feel like you're a burden. And honestly, it's a really dark place. Really, really and truly dark. This is the space where I lost some of the friends that I thought would be my friends forever. Where I thought that I lost who I was. But now, as I go through my old emails, I realize that the opposite happened. I gained who I was supposed to be. and I unbecame everything that I wasn't supposed to be. And it was because I veered so far away from what my heart desired that this had to happen so I could get back to a place where I can live my life in alignment with the desires of my heart. Because here's the thing, I truly believe that our souls come onto this planet to have a physical experience. I believe that our souls want to know what it's like to create on the physical plane and to experience everything that life has to offer. I think when we're unhappy, we're not living in alignment with the desires of our heart. And so there was a point, growing up, of course, I could not live in alignment with the desires of my heart because I was raised in such a stringent, abusive environment. And unfortunately, this was not possible for me. But when I went to university, I had a really unique opportunity to do this. And my desires really came through. And I really was living in alignment with what it is that I want to do and who it is that I want to be. And I was learning and discovering and getting closer every day to that. But you see, I got out of alignment when I became more interested in how I appeared from a physical surface level perspective. And so when I started going into things like law school and working in the tech company and all of that, even though getting out of law school got me closer to what sets my soul on fire, I still wasn't there and I still wasn't getting the message. And it took me getting so incredibly sick and literally physically removing me from the path that I was on for me to realize that this was a message from the universe to help me get back to where I'm supposed to be for my benefit and nothing else. Because my soul wants to enjoy this life. It doesn't want to come here and suffer. It doesn't want to come here and merely live in the physical realm, live by just appearances, live in a way that doesn't satiate my actual soul, that doesn't fill my cup. It's not the point of living. And I believe that when you do live in alignment with whatever it is that your soul desires, that is where you reach your full potential and where you can manifest a life that truly brings you the utmost joy. But a lot of people are thinking, well, why can't I manifest? Why can't I create this life by design? You must be so lucky. And that's not it at all. First of all, it's not luck. And second of all, if you're not able to manifest a life that you desire, you're not living in alignment with what your soul desires. And you need to look deep down inside and get super honest with yourself and unbecome everything that is getting in the way of your soul's purpose. And so this brings me half an hour later to the email. So this is an email that I found in my outbox from UT. And it's from 2014. And check this out. This is an email that I sent to a prospective job. And when I read it, I thought, I cannot believe that I sent this in 2014 before I had ever been sick with a chronic illness, before I had, ever even thought about the job that I do today. Yet my soul deeply understood with just an ever-present knowing of what it is that I came here to do. And it was trying to express on the physical plane and trying to show me the road to walk down. And for many, many reasons and many distractions, around me, took my attention, unfortunately. But, like I said, now I'm back in alignment and now I can see very clearly what was happening. So here's the email written from me in 2014. Dear Dr. Adams, my name is Faith Abbott, and I'm a psychology student graduating in May 2014 from the University of Texas at Austin. I came across your website as I've been searching for a job that I'm passionate about. My goal in life is to help those who cannot help themselves at the current moment in time. I want to show people that they are able and strong. I believe that I am passionate about this for a reason, and I have not felt right about any of my job applications or interviews over the past few months because I know that there is a place for me that will allow me to use my abilities in the right way. Over the past 5 years of my studies, I've been fascinated with studying the human mind. Through research, I truly believe that we are embarking upon an age where there are new possibilities and new means of attaining hope and success. My personal goal is to surround myself with those who are hopeless, help them heal, and teach them a new way of thinking that will empower them to be the ones to be the change in the world. So I'm going out on a limb here messaging you because I do not know what will come of this. I only know that I have something important to give, and then I am ready to start doing that. I can't believe that I wrote that email so many years ago, and it's deeply what my soul desired. And he never got back to me, and so, I veered away from it. But like I said, I see so clearly now, and if you don't know me well, I have a business where I help people with chronic illnesses use what's inside of them, married with the right practitioners, to heal their chronic conditions. I help people heal. The name of my business is That Healing Feeling. And it's so beautiful to see how it's all evolved. And I have goosebumps when I think about it because I know that this is what I'm meant to do. I know that this sets my soul on fire. And I know that the first step to someone healing is them believing that it's possible. And I want people to get that healing feeling when they come across me in any capacity, whether it's my podcast, my TikTok, my Instagram. And so I'm so in alignment with my soul's desire on this planet. And since I'm in alignment, and since I understand this, and since I can now see so clearly, I understand how to start manifesting a reality that I desire. Because see, the point of being here is to manifest a reality that you want so that you can enjoy the experience of living on this planet. And so now I can, and so now I do. And it really goes to show that the healing journey is a gift for you because the universe is constantly conspiring in your favor. So instead of looking at it as something that's setting you back and preventing you from living the life you want, understand that you are unbecoming. You are unbecoming everything that's preventing you from living your fullest potential, from living in alignment with your purpose, and from being the most powerful version of yourself. And if you can be introspective enough to understand and to see clearly what it is that you need to unbecome, you can start to heal and have everything that you really want. Not what you think you want, but what you actually want deep down inside. Whatever it is that absolutely fills your cup all the way to the top. There are too many people out there who are trying to distract you. They're muting your ability to heal. They want you to think that everything that you need is outside of you, that the answers that you need are out there, that they're expensive, that they're not available to you. But in reality, 99.9% of what you could ever need is inside of you. So the healing journey is a blessing and an opportunity to up-level yourself and to evolve. And I say this to my clients all the time. Evolution isn't easy. If you look back in time, species, life, only evolves if their environment literally forces them to evolve, because evolving is uncomfortable. And so healing, similarly, is, it's your environment forcing you to evolve, and it's going to be uncomfortable. But the very inherent nature of evolving means that you can come out as someone different, but you are being forced to go through it right now. And you will continue to go through it until you understand that the universe is constantly conspiring in your favor. So I hope this was helpful to you. I hope that this was a really objective way to describe that it truly, truly, truly is a blessing, and that, you are more powerful than you think. So as always, I'm sending you so much love and light, and to your health and healing always. Love you guys.